Hi, I'm Rocket with Wreckless Blenders. Welcome to Musings from Rocket's Cellar. Got a great show for you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the upcoming releases, the upcoming parties, and I have a handful of wines I'm going to try with you to give you an idea of what you're in store for. We bottled about a month ago, so we bottled 4 of our varietals. I think we're going to have 7 this year. So there's Toriga Rose, there's Toriga Red, there's San Giovaci and Sagrantino. So we bottled those, and I'm going to taste those with you later today. And we're bottling soon. In a few weeks, we'll be bottling the Barbera, the Fiano, and the Wreckless Red. Now, bottling is a fantastic time. We have a lovely time. Several friends and colleagues come over and help us with the bottling. Here you see some pictures of the lineup. Yeah, it's a great crew this time. We always have a wonderful time. If you're interested in bottling with us, if you're interested in knowing when we're going to be doing that and helping out, there's a handful of jobs. You know, there's the person filling the bottles. That's usually me. I'm the bottle master filler, or the filler maestro, if you will. Then we have corking. Then you have put the little capsules on top, and then we have a whole crew of people who put labels on, because that's tended to be the slowest job, because you got to crack and peel the labels. But we have it's a good time. We have a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity to try the wines as it's getting bottled. Now, we have a bunch of different events coming up. Now, the events in May and June are going to be a little different than our normal month-to-month wine days. So it's a pretty interesting thing. Now, one of the cool things about being part of the Rocket family is there's a lot of neat technology that's running around. And right now, there's a bit of technology that Miss Rocket's using. She's got a video studio, and I'm going to take you over to Studio Rocket, who's going to give you a rundown of the upcoming events. Studio Rocket, take it away. Thank you, Cellar Rocket. This is Studio Rocket coming to you from Miss Rocket's studio. Here's a quick update on the upcoming events for the Wreckless Blenders. The next event on the calendar is May 7th in Concord. That's right. There will be no April wine day in Carmichael. Okay, so the next one's in Concord, May the 7th, first Saturday of May. The next event after that will be June 4th at the Wreckless Winery in Carmichael. There won't be a Concord one in June, and there won't be a Carmichael one in May. I apologize, that sounds like a lot. Let's do a recap. Next event, May 7th, Saturday in Concord. The event after that, June 4th in Carmichael at the winery. That will be a big event day. We will have a backyard party, and you drop by and check things out. That June event, everybody's welcome. Also know that by that time, we should have all of the new vintage bottled. You should be able to try everything. That includes the new Fiano, that includes the new Barbera, that includes the new Rosé, and all the other wines that we have that Cellar Rocket will walk you through. With that, I'm signing off. This has been Studio Rocket from Miss Rocket's studio. Thanks, Studio Rocket. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about for this Musings is, what does our current release lineup look like? And I wanted to cover this because there's the 2019 vintage is nearing its expiration in terms of the number of bottles we have available. So if you want any 2019, you should probably get some of that. We have a handful that I'll cover here in a minute. And then we've got the new lineup. So the 2021 reds, whites, and the 2021 whites and rosé, and the 2020 reds. But you know what? This is always one of those things that if I sit here and talk at you and tell you, it's not going to sink in. So I asked Whiteboard Rocket to come in and give us a current lineup of where we are, also to cover what the limited release wines are, which if you're a wine club member, you should be getting an email about, and find out how much you'd like us to set aside for you. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Whiteboard Rocket, who'll give you that rundown. Whiteboard Rocket, take it away. Thank you, Cellar Rocket. This is Whiteboard Rocket. I'm going to walk you through our current release of our wines. It's at April 2022, and I'm doing a little bit of future talk here because we are bottling the last set in mid-May. But the whole idea is starting in June, all of these will be available. We're going to start with the 2019s. We have just a handful of these left. Please, if you have any desire to get these, get them now because they will be gone soon. We have the Dayglow, the Touriga, and the Wreckless Red. And we have varying amounts of each of those. Starting in June, we will have the 2021 Fiano, the white wine from Italy that is just lovely. It's very different from anything that you've had before when it comes to a white wine. I highly encourage you to pick up some of this. The 2020 Barbera is going to be lovely. We're going to be bottling that in mid-May. Everything that we've tasted so far, it's just another one of those fantastic Barberas, full of flavors, got that brightness to it. It's going to be a winner. The 2020 Sangiovese has been bottled, and the fun thing about the 2020 Sangiovese is it was the one that we made our first rosé out of. So we sucked a bunch of juice off of these, and it intensified the flavors. I'm sure Cellar Rocket's going to give you some tasting notes on that. The 2020 Touriga also is full of flavor. It's got those savory notes, Portuguese varietal that just sends me over the moon. We love the mushroom and forest floor and saddle, all those lovely flavors. The 2020 Wreckless Red, oh my gosh, I remember when we blended this and how excited we are about what's going on there. Now, that's our current release. And our current release is just generally available to the public, and there's no pre-orders or any of that kind of stuff. If you are a wine club member, you have early access to the limited releases. Now, starting in June, these limited releases will be available to everyone. So if you're a wine club member, make sure you respond to the email that you're going to get from me soon saying how much of these would you like. And I know you haven't tasted them yet, but here's the thing. You can say you want a case, for example, and if you come in and you taste it and you're like, it's not for me. Not every wine's for everybody. That's fine. Then it'll just get put back into the queue. So you don't have to take it. But if you want some of this, if you know and you trust us, I know a lot of you really trust our skills at making these great wines. These are going to be some that you're going to want to put your name against. I'm not going to limit the amount you get. All right. I'm going to try this. This is the first time we're going to do this. So tell me how much you'd really like. And we're going to see what kind of demand there is, and we'll go from there. But the rosé, the Touriga Rosé is it's fantastic, and we have that. We've bottled that recently. I'm sure Cellar Rocket's going to give you some tasting notes on that. And then the 2020 Sagrantino we've also bottled. It's got a special label on it from my sister, who is a wildlife photographer, and took one of her amazingly, oh my God, so intense pictures of a bald eagle she took and put it on the label, and I love that label. And I even have posters made, so ask about those at the next event. Right, with that's the current lineup and the limited release lineup. I'm going to hand you the release lineup. That's it. That was pretty funny. With that, I'm going to send you back to Cellar Rocket. All right, thank you, Whiteboard Rocket. That was great. Good to see the lineup all on one page, and that really helps solidify what we've got and what's coming up. Like Whiteboard Rocket said, I'll repeat this again. Wine Club members, you're going to get early access to those limited release wines. You get an email in the next week. Please respond and let us know how much you'd like. And as Studio Rocket talked about in Concord on May 7th, if you're out and you want to try some of the rosé, there'll be some of that available. Also some of the Sagrantino, Sangiovese, and Touriga, the new ones. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about those wines because I think you should have a front row seat to what they taste like. And I'm going to start with the rosé. So the Touriga Rosé, here's the bottle. Lovely, lovely color. Just a gorgeous wine. Now Touriga, the Portuguese varietal, is a savory varietal. So it tends to have, the difference between savory and fruit forward, right? So the fruit forward, you get a lot of the intensity up front in the front of your mouth. You get a lot of those kind of almost sweet tastes. Savory tends to be at the back of the mouth. You can associate it with tannins, but it's not necessary. But you tend to get a lot of flavors back here. They tend to evoke earthy, right? So, and I've heard saddle, mushroom, forest floor, things like that to describe it. So when you make a rosé out of that, which most people think of rosé and they think of fruity. Some people think sweet. And one of the things, I was having a good friend of ours, Gary, who is one of the people I learned rosés with at one of these Pebble Beach Food and Wine. I think I've talked about this when I talk about rosé on one of these. We had the best time trying these rosés from Provence. Totally opened my eyes up to the different varietals and the different flavors you can get from a rosé. And in this case, this year, the Touriga, the 2021 Touriga, we get the varietal in, and we're pressing it. Not pressing it. We're crushing it. So it's coming off of the trailer, and we take some measurements and realize that it's not the numbers we want necessarily for a big red. So maybe we should take some of this out and make a rosé out of it. And so we made that call right then and there. It was a great call. And what's happened with this rosé, instead we were going to do the Sangiovese, and we're so glad we didn't wait for the Sangiovese to do a rosé, because we didn't get any Sangiovese in 2021. So we got lucky on this one. So what you get with this is not a sweet wine. You actually get tannins out of this. So there's some intensity to the flavors here. What I love about this is the nose is evocative of melon. So there's a little bit of watermelon, there's a little bit of cantaloupe, but the flavors don't match that at all. So it's, cantaloupe, it tends to be sweet. Watermelon tends to have this very unique flavor profile. But in this case, you stick your nose in it and you're like, is that cantaloupe or is that honeydew? I don't know. But when you try it, there's a brief moment where there's that cantaloupe honeydew sweetness, right? Just like boom, like that for 3 seconds, maybe even just 1 second. And then all of a sudden, these flavors just cascade over your mouth, all the way back to the back of your mouth, getting all this lovely, I don't know. I'm getting some of those savory notes, still getting a little bit of the honeydew. That's really interesting. I hadn't had that. I didn't catch that before. And so, but it's not the sweet honeydew. I just want to, because cloyy kind of Kool-Aid-y rosé is not what we're going for. You can get that anywhere else, right? You can find that a dime a dozen at different places. We're really looking for something that has character and is interesting and is not your just run-of-the-mill, any of our wines like this, but particular rosé. We don't want a run-of-the-mill rosé. So I got to tell you, this is, I'm still having flavors just kind of bursting in my mouth. Bit of minerality, all right? It's not overly mineral. So mineral, you think of granite, you think of like you've licked, the smell of concrete, licking concrete, the smell of it, when rain hits it, that's a great example of minerality. If you've been out and there's wet rocks around, like you're at a river or something like that, a stream, and you have that smell that comes up, that's a great way to think about minerality. So, yeah, so this rosé is on top of the world. So definitely try it when you come out. Next on the list is the 2020 Sangiovese. A couple things to note about the 2020 Sangiovese. One is this Sangiovese, this was the year we first made our rosé. And what happened was this was the 2020 Sangiovese. So we get that into the bins and we say, well, let's take 30 gallons of that and pump it out and put it into another barrel and make that rosé out of it. So we pump it out of there. What that did to the Sangiovese is it created a higher ratio or a lower ratio, I don't know, whatever. There was more skin to juice contact. And so you were able to get much higher extraction of flavors as a result. And so the Sangiovese is really intense in a very good way. And it's one of those things that we kind of look at each other every so often and go, how come we didn't do this before? Well, there's various reasons. Sangiovese is one of our best sellers, and it's very much a crowd favorite. So it's like, well, you know, do we take away from it? We were actually in 2020, we were talking about getting 3 tons of it. We usually get 2 tons, I think. And this year, unfortunately, we didn't get any. So I'll stop. I'm not bitter about that. Okay, seriously, I'm not, because it was a tough year. It was just one of those, looking back. So the Sangiovese, the color on this, it's lighter of the 3 that we're going to be trying. So it's a bit of a garnet, kind of a lighter color. And usually our Sangioveses are lighter in color. This is actually darker than our, like a 2019 Sangiovese. So this has got a little bit more darker flavors to it. I mean, darker color to it. So right away, this goes straight for the flavors, for your taste buds, bursting with flavor. And often the Sangiovese it's a smoother, it's a silkier feel to it. So it's lighter. It's got very easy drinking. It's got character, but it's not really known for like in-your-face flavors. This one's got some pretty in-your-face flavors. Still has that silky flavor to it. Got a bit more guts at the end, so we got a little bit more tannins going on here. I'm a big fan of this, so I think it's going to be our, we're not going to have another Sangiovese next year, so we're not going to be bottling a Sangiovese next year. We're hoping to get more Sangiovese. Sorry, I'm going to get all confused about timing and stuff like that, but it's going to be another year at least before we get Sangiovese. We're hoping to get some this year, so this is going to be it for a little while. Is what I'm trying to say. If you like our Sangiovese, you should pick some extra up this year. Okay. Yep, there it is. All those flavors, great intensity. Now I'm breaking a little bit of rule here. I'm not giving 3 sips, and I'll do that later. I'm really giving you kind of first impressions. The other thing to know is these just were bottled, so they're definitely younger, and they will mature, and some of the flavors are a little sharp elbowed, and kind of awkward teenage flavors is how we talk about it. And they'll mature, they'll grow up, they'll get a little bit more melded over the next 6 to 9 months. Anyway, we're going to try the Touriga next. Now, when you compare the color of the Touriga is a very dark, interesting wine. It's got a lot of those flavors. Now, I will do this later. I'll probably do this on another Musings, is to take the Toriga Rose and the Touriga Red and taste them side by side to give you, I did that with the Sangiovese and the Rose last year, and it's this wonderful back and forth. So you get some, it's really lovely. So Touriga, now it's going to be more savory. Your flavors are going to show up in the back. It's going to have more earthy to it. For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's the earth. Tannins. It's like when you stick your hands in, if you're out gardening and you stick your hands in your garden dirt and it's, kind of damp, and you lift it up like early in the morning. If you've done this, you've lifted it up and you get all that, that lovely flavors, that smells that come off your hands. That's what this tastes like. It is very reminiscent of that feeling and that earthiness. Yeah, this is a good one. All right, the final one, I have to do a quick shout out here. Final one is the Sagrantino. The Sagrantino this year, we got a special label. This is from my sister, Jan Nichols, Wildlife Photography. You should check it out. She took this picture of this bald eagle, and there's the label there. Oh my gosh, look at those eyes. That is one bad eagle, and coming for you. I even made some posters out of this. So I got a handful of posters. So if you're at the next wine day, I am going to charge you for these. So they're $5, and I'm going to put that back into some wildlife funds that my sister supports, because where she goes to take these pictures is protected land, and she wants to make sure that they stay protected. So I'll make sure that the proceeds from those posters gets donated back to wildlife preserves. anyway, Sagrantino, one of my favorite grapes. So Sagrantino is one of the most tannic wines out there, tannic varietals out there. We get ours from Loomis, and which is, you know, near Folsom, and it's just lovely. And we don't get a lot, so this is one of the reasons it's one of our limited releases. And so we get as much as we can, and I love every drop of this stuff. And it's kind of hard to pry it away from me. So the fact that I got to open some, I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited to share with you some of the tasting notes. All right. Okay, first things first. You're going to expect strong tannins from Sagrantino. That's why it's at the end. Usually Touriga is at the end. But if we got a Sagrantino in the lineup, you put that at the end. But it's got flavor. It's not tannins for tannin's sake. So it's not bar fight tannins where it's going to, you know, your tongue's been in a bar fight. It's not that. All right. It's got all these really, really interesting flavors. Let me check something real quick. So this has got this has got a little bit of Touriga in it. So it's got about 10% of the Touriga. So that earthy Touriga flavors married with these really wild tannins. So lots of, I mean, these are natural tannins. They're not from the oak of the barrel or anything like that. So they've got this really intensity that I am a big fan of, as I've said. All right. Wow. Oh my goodness. That is a lovely, oh wow. Excuse me a minute. Very intense. Definitely at the end. Right? Definitely at the end. So I'm getting, the flavors that I'm getting are, there's a little bit of brightness to it. So it's got that, some nice acidity, some brightness right up here with these, I don't even know, blueberry kind of flavors, like really good, intense blueberries, but not sweet, right? So it's got that. Get a little bit of eucalyptus. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know. That could be something else, but I'm getting a bit of eucalyptus, which tends to be a Cabernet Sauvignon flavor. So this has got something. Maybe there's something in the air around where these are grown, but it's not super strong. So it could be influence from other things. But yeah, I'm going to strongly suggest you pick some of this up if you like kind of bigger, bolder wines. We don't aim for bigger, bolder, like in super intense wines. We tend to try and make our wines elegant and an expression of the varietal instead of I'm gonna sock it to you every time kind of thing, which is some of the wines are like that, and some people like that. So I'm somebody who's all about and. I am not about or. So there's a place in this world for the elegant wines and a place in this world for the super sock it to you wines. This is our closest to our super sock it to you wine. So definitely check this out when you're out next time, when you're visiting. And I think you'll enjoy it. Now, one thing that I've done recently is I've gone backwards when tasting. So I've gone forwards and I go backwards. But I don't know if you've ever done this. If you've gone to a winery and you've tasted 3 or 4 wines and then you go back to the first one, the first sip of that, if you go all the way back, so instead of going backwards, like the fourth one, go to the third one. Instead of that, if you go all the way back to the first one and start over, I find that I'm like, oh gosh, I can't believe I like that. That's happened to me so many times. So I kind of got over myself and I said, well, look, I talk about the 3-sip rule, right? Which is never judge a wine on the first sip. And I realized that when I went back and started at the beginning, I was judging the wine on the first sip. So I stopped myself. It's been a number of years since I've done this, but it comes to mind because I'm thinking about going back and trying the Touriga right now. But if I do, it's going to be 3 sips. So make sure you give it 3 sips because that third sip is really what it is. And the first sip is just a remnant of the previous wine clearing out, and give it a second sip to settle your palate, and then the third sip's the good thing. Yeah, I don't know if I can do an entire musings without talking about the 3-sip rule at some point, but hey, consistency is a good thing. We hope to see you at one of the upcoming events. So Concord, May 7th, the big event at the winery on June 4th, and come on out, check things out. We should have all the current release available. If you're a wine club member and you've allocated some of the new wines that we have for limited release, you can pick it up then. You can try it and pick it up then. If you aren't a wine club member and you want to figure out how to become a wine club member, just go to the website and click on the wine club link, and there's a little form and some instructions and how all it works, and we can put you in the queue. We will have those limited release wines available for sale that day, anything that hasn't been spoken for. So that is the caveat, right? Okay, well, take care. This has been another Musings from Rocket Cellar.